Hey guys, Stu Darling from Unstoppable Force. Welcome to the podcast. Do you know what? I believe we can all break out of mediocrity. We can all reach beyond what we thought our limits were. And that's what we talk about on the podcast. We talk about being unreasonable. We talk about raising our standards. And we talk about delivering the ultimate sacrifice again and again. Enjoy. Welcome to this episode. This is a dear friend of mine. Monica Bloom was on my radio show, I think 3 times. Monica is an Ayurvedic practitioner. She looks at holistic healing of our bodies and our minds. Now, I know this might sound like she's going to turn up in some sort of smock and stuff. Monica is just the most wild, exciting explosion of joy to welcome onto a TV show, a podcast, or a radio show. I bet you will feel the same once you've met her. As I said in the introduction, Monica and I are friends, been friends for years. She's been on the radio show, but it was so important to get her onto Unstoppable Force TV because she's got such an amazing story and an amazing message about why being unstoppable doesn't mean being unstoppable all of the time. Monica, how are you?
I'm so good, Stu. Thank you for having me.
It's just I love talking to you, and it's so different from the radio show because I can see you smile. It's awesome. Where are you?
I'm outside of Los Angeles.
Okay, so not that far away from another guest from this one, Chef Justine Whitney, who was on the show. How would you describe yourself? I mean, you're an author, but what are your books about?
Yeah, so I'm an Ayurvedic lifestyle coach and teacher and mindset and performance coach as well. So I do a couple things. I am an author of 2 Ayurvedic books. But here's the thing. People think about Ayurveda usually as, the therapies, the massages, the herbs, the eating right, the exercising, the spirituality, all of those. And that's all true and that's all good. But where I've used Ayurveda most in my life is at work.
Okay, so what the fuck is Ayurveda?
Ayurveda is living according to who you are as a unique individual in mind, body, spirit, because we're all totally different people. And we have different needs and we have different thresholds. We have different tendencies that are both good and not so good. And so it's an Eastern healing system stemming from India about 5,000 years ago. And it's the way they healed themselves, but they didn't just go to the body alone. They needed the mind to be right. They need the spirit to be right. And so Ayurveda is the system, a healing system mostly of prevention. So it teaches us instead of waiting to get sick, we're going to take care of it. We're going to learn this thing to prevent getting sick in the first place.
One word that you use that is just unique. Hooray! Let's not forget that we are all unique. So we've all got to mend, we've all got to fix, we've all got to prepare ourselves in unique ways rather than... And look, I mean, I'm not decrying Western medicine at all. It has its place. But 5,000 years, Lizzie and I were talking about this when we were walking on the beach a couple of days ago. All of that, 5,000 years of experience that Western medicine threw out rather than actually listening to what, where we could go. So give me some practical examples then of Ayurveda and how we can use it to shift our lives to that more unique, that more positive space.
So my daughter was almost 2 years old and I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area and I had a 3-hour daily commute back and forth to work. And I was a brand new leader and I was managing a team in a staffing company. And my team was on the bottom. Our numbers were on the bottom. And every day I heard, you're San Francisco, you should be number 1. Why are you not? And every day I would come back home on, the train or the bus, whichever I was taking, and I'd be upset. So I started to burn out after a certain amount of time of this, because you come home to a toddler and you're trying to do everything really good and you're, all of this. So the other thing is my daughter went to daycare, but the daycare opened up at 8:00 in the morning and the bus picked up at 8:02, 3 blocks down. If I missed that bus, I missed the morning meeting with the other managers who were not new, whose teams were not on the bottom. So if that light turned green and I watched the bus go through, I missed that meeting. So every day I would drop my daughter off at daycare, and I taught her to push mama out the door, because I couldn't say goodbye. I couldn't take the time to give hugs and kisses, and I turned it into a game. And I said, push mama out the door, and she'd push me, and I would put my laptop bag on my shoulder, and I would sprint with my ballet flats, and I would hightail it. Thank goodness that bus was late most of the time. But when it wasn't, I missed the meeting. And when it was, I smushed on like a sardine, and I had a tight ride all the way into the city. And so months and months and months went by, and I started to deteriorate, get depressed. And I thought, oh, what would Ayurveda say about this? What would Ayurveda say about this? Ayurveda says, in order to change the mind, you must move your body. And I was very active before I had my daughter. And so I thought, I'm not running. I'm not doing any exercise like I used to do before. And so the next morning, I set my alarm for 5:15 because I was already getting up at 5:30 and working till about 11 o'clock at night. I set the alarm for 5:15. I slept in my sports bra and my workout clothes, and I left my shoes next to my bed. And I grabbed the dog, and I didn't have a lot of time. But I was like, I bet I could run 5 minutes one direction, 5 minutes the other way. And if I run really fast, I'll probably get sweaty. Sweating in Ayurveda is a waste product. It needs to get expelled on a regular basis so that we can function well, which is something else I wasn't doing. So I took the dog, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes back, and I looked in the mirror, and I was like, oh, I've got color in my cheeks. And that day I wasn't sad. Nothing changed with the bus schedule. Nothing changed with all that. But I was like, all right, I got energy. I can do this. And I did it again and again. And not too long after that, I was like, what else can I rig with 10 minutes? What can I rig? There's a bus schedule. There's a daycare schedule. I wonder if daycare could open 10 minutes early for me if I paid them extra. So I asked, I said, can you open 10 minutes early? I'll pay extra. I got to catch that bus. They said, we would love to. And other parents would like that too. So they opened 10 minutes earlier. I paid extra. I always made the bus. But then I caught on. I was like, I have extra 10 minutes. What if I jumped in my car and drove up the street and parked? And then I did, and I got a seat on the bus. And when I got a seat on the bus, I did meditation. That's all I did. And I was happy. I was exercised. I was meditated. I was refreshed. By the time I opened my eyes, we're going over the Bay Bridge. I could see the beautiful San Francisco Bay and the city. I was happy. I always made the meetings on time. And our team ended up growing to be number one after about a year and a half. Because all of a sudden they had a better leader who could think, who wasn't crabby, who wasn't just trying to scrap the pieces of the day together. And I used, the roots came from Ayurveda. Ayurveda says, in order to change the mind, you must move the body. And I started there, and then everything else changed because my mind improved.
Wow. It's so simple and so profound. Out of that, not only did you help yourself, you helped a bunch of other working families as well by shifting your daycare timings and just that ability to use our brains, because when we're stressed, we don't think. We can't think because we're in reptilian. When I teach it, I talk about the reptilian brain, which is the 4 Fs: fight, flight, fright, and procreate. That's all you're doing. One of the 4. Whereas when we take time to think, we begin to introduce the concept of mammals, the mammalian brain, helping one another, doing it for your team, not just you. And then we're able to start actually thinking using the human brain, the analytical brain. And we can all do that. We can all take that one sentence. Actually, shall we just finish the conversation now? Because you've just given us just a load of great information to go and practice. Let's not. Let's keep going. But it is as simple as that. But then we were just talking. Todd and I were talking just before you came online. We spend all of our time going, oh, I need permission to do this, or I'm going to buy that book to learn. We know. We just need that calm space, that still small voice to say, right. So how did it change your life? What happened? You got to top of, you were in the top team. What moved on? What happened next?
Yeah, then I was able to tell other people what I did. Then I was able to tell other people what I did. It's like, Nana, Well, then we started a salesperson on my team was like, I got an idea. Let's start something called Fun Squad. And I was like, half boss and half fun. And I was like, what is this Fun Squad? And he's like, oh no, well, at 2:00 in the afternoon, we should all just jump up and say Fun Squad and then go run outside or something. So we actually did Fun Squad for a while. We walked over to Chinatown. We walked up big hills. One time we went to get frozen yogurt. But we did Fun Squad, and it was basically like a 15-20 minute break where we left our desks and we went outside. We live in one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Climb the hill. Go look and see what you could see when you climb that hill.
Isn't it just wild that you're just those simple concepts that are actually the concepts that made us human beings in the dim and distant past? And we seem to, why do you think we've forgotten it all?
Because I think it's a misuse of our 5 senses. In Ayurveda, we receive information from the outside world with our 5 senses. We see, we hear, we smell, we taste, we touch. And our noses are so into the screens that all we do is look. We're overusing our eyes in the wrong place because the screens, whatever, it's an essential place. We all have to be on screens. I'm real about that. You're not just going to sit and look at the sky all day. But it's a false light. And that can do incredible things to the mind, especially when everything's jumping, moving, trying to get your attention online all the time. And we live there for 8, 12, 14, I don't know how many hours a day, a lot. And so when that happens, you're not touching anything, you're not necessarily listening to anything, you're not smelling anything, and you're not tasting anything. However, the sense of taste also gets affected because if you're overusing the eyes, sometimes you need to feel real, and so you start overeating. So what I did for myself and what I did for my team is I had a little adventure for them often that we could experience with our 5 senses. I rigged it, Stu. I can't even tell you. I started building in contests. This is how we won. I was like, what do you guys want? Let's have a contest. What do you want in the office? Somebody's like, I want speakers. I'm like, okay, if you hit this number, we'll get some speakers. Somebody else wanted a bean bag. Somebody else wanted a mini fridge where they could put like beers and stuff for happy hours. We got snacks. We started doing all this stuff, but it was all related to the 5 senses. It wasn't just things here. We brought life back into our day and we vibed. We just had a good energy. And so to answer your question about that, it's like, I think we misuse and overuse our sense of sight way too much and ignore the rest. So we feel imbalanced. Whereas if you get a really good hug from somebody, all of a sudden you reset. If you start going outside and you look at the beautiful views from San Francisco, your neighborhood, wherever you are, you look at the sky, you look at the stars, you feel different. If you smell in and you let the sense of touch, your little nose hairs feel the air and smell the air, it's different than sitting in front of a computer sniffing your own breath all day.
I went out to exercise. It's a few months ago now, but it was because of the exercise. Well, it was going to take a couple of hours, and I got up and it was still dark. And I went down to the beach near the house, and same route that I've run almost every day for a year. But being there at that time of day, where you can't see because it's dark. I mean, you can, but it's not as bright, and it's before the sun comes up, so the birds aren't singing yet. And my intense memory of that run was the smell of the trees. And it was just, wow. I mean, I've been down here every day and just never picked up on the smell. And then, as the dawn light started coming, then the bird song came in, and then just that shift in your senses because you choose to be aware. And then I suppose the counter to that is having spent 48 hours in downtown Hollywood, the attack on the senses that you're not used to. There's the attack of the noise, the smog, the smell of weed in the air, the taste of it on the back of your throat. We've got to be careful about where we actually go to experience those, don't we?
Yeah, you definitely. And you brought up a good point. So there's an underuse of the senses, which I kind of talked about with all the other senses that we don't use throughout the day. There's overuse of the senses, which is too much looking, too loud of something, too much food, or too much extra tasty, too much salty, too much sugars that's compelling us to just eat more. There's underuse, overuse, and misuse. So misuse of the senses could be it's eating the wrong foods that aren't great for you. They're eating or consuming the things that aren't going to do you any favors. Misuse, listening to things that aren't great. We have to be very careful of the things that, not careful, we be mindful of the things that we're taking in, because it's what creates us. It changes our mind. If you hear a horrible news story or something, it's going to change your mind that day, that moment, and it's going to get in there. Whereas if you're just listening to music that makes you happy.
Our workshops, when we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and you've got the physiological needs at the bottom. And back when he wrote it, there's food, there's water, there's air. And let's just rest on those for a minute. But it's got to be quality. I think water, less than, over a quarter of the population in New Zealand don't have access to clean drinking water. Well, if you're not drinking clean drinking water, then that's going to affect you. If you're living downtown anywhere, the air you're breathing isn't so great. The processed food that we now eat is harming us, rather than protecting the gut and feeding the liver, protecting the liver, feeding the gut, whichever way around it is. We're doing ourselves damage, even though we're listening to what we've been told to listen to. And we've got to become more aware of everything that we're putting into our bodies, haven't we?
Yeah, and I agree with that too. Be more aware, pay attention to where it comes from. In Ayurveda, it's we're part of nature. So we're, just to give the folks who don't know what it is, it's Ayurveda says that macrocosm and microcosm. There's only 5 things that exist in the great giant universe, and all the way down to our teeny tiniest cells, and that is space, air, fire, water, and earth. And those 5 elements have created everything on our planet, all the plants and the trees and everything. And so when we get close to those things, we get real healthy. That's why I took my team outside. Right? We go outside. I had the hardest meetings outside. We also don't need to live in fear, because I've experienced it the other way, where people are hyper aware and afraid to eat something, touch something, be in an environment, hyper aware. And what I would just caution folks, be aware and be mindful and make the best choices you can for what you know today. And you feel good about those choices, and you do right by yourself today. But you don't have to be afraid, because we don't know everything. We just don't know everything. There's no sense in being afraid. But the other thing is, for example, you're eating a cupcake. You've heard a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. When you eat that cupcake, you're just going to get fat. Well, we all know that one cupcake's not going to do that. But instead of having those thoughts about cupcake or anything else,
have that cupcake, celebrate it, enjoy it, but just remember that it's a fascinating point that quite often when Liz is talking about health and wellness, she begins to feel embarrassed about buying fresh fruit, fresh veg, because maybe some people in the audience can't afford to consistently buy the fresh stuff. And she's now said, well, if what you can do is go to frozen veg or canned veg in spring water, that's okay. It's a stepping stone to where you're going. And if you begin to remove that processed food, then it's the stepping stone. Give yourself permission to be where you are on a journey to where you're trying to get to. But we were put here to live a joyous life. And sometimes that does include cupcakes. I keep telling people that. I
totally agree. And I agree with Liz. You don't need to break the bank to eat well, and just be aware you're always doing the best you can at any given moment. And 80 to 90% of the time, eat well and eat healthy. The other 20 to 10%, wine and cupcakes or whatever you like, whatever your little sweet treats are, or salty treats, or whatever you got, enjoy it, because that is life. It is also said in Ayurveda, we need to bless our food. I want everybody listening, you got to bless the food and be thankful for whatever food is in front of you so that the body will accept it. If you're looking at the cupcake like it's going to make you fat, it's not going to digest well because your mind has already made the decision.
You mentioned the five things, and I've forgotten them already: space, air, water, fire, and the fifth one, earth. There are five different. I'm going to use the word characters, but I know that's not the right word. Five different characters within Ayurveda, aren't there? And we all reflect one of them.
There's three. So the characters you're talking about are actually energies: space, air, fire, water, earth. All five elements. Those five elements break down into three energies, and those are called the doshas. And the doshas rule time, they rule nature, they rule us. And it's the fun part of Ayurveda, because the combination of doshas in us is what makes us us. Space and air, they combine to create vata dosha, which is the energy of movement. Fire and water combine to make the dosha pitta dosha, which is the energy of transformation. Water and earth combine to make kapha dosha, which is the energy of lubrication and structure. We have all three doshas in us. We all do. We have all of them, but we have them in different combinations, which is why some people are earthier and more grounded and maybe more heavier set than others. They're the caretakers. They move slow. They're joyous. They can be really stubborn. You've got the firecrackers, the go-getters, the chasers, the ones that are on fire. They're leaders. They got a vision. They're going to lead and everybody's going to follow. They're opinionated. They organize things. They're on a mission. And then you've got the other people that are more lightweight and skinny and full of ideas and exuberance, and they just can't stop talking and stop flinging their arms around, and then they have gassy problems and they can't remember anything for the life of them, and they multitask. Those are kind of the three. That's a super brief thing, but Stu, you mentioned like what's in my books and in my teachings. I talk a lot about these doshas. They're fascinating.
And are we one of them? Do we move between them? Am I one type? Are you a type? Or do we shift between the two? Can you shift between the two?
At conception, our doshas were set. At that moment, the combination of all five elements and the combination of the three doshas created you. And then your mom made decisions and you were in the womb. So she made decisions, influenced things. Then we get born and and life happens and we eat things and we do things, we experience things. And so our nature, our closest nature that we are to our truest selves, usually when we're little, like little kids, because we didn't have a whole lot of influencing unless mom made weird decisions when we were in the womb, right? We come out, we're pretty close to our natural selves, which is why I believe a lot of us still get along with maybe friends from grade school or high school or even college. We were so young, like then we were so just in our true essence of being. But then some things influence, they make you sad, they make you angry, they traumatize you, things happen, or we eat a bunch of crap for like 2 decades. And then all of a sudden, that light and windy Vata type person maybe has turned a little bit more into the Kapha heavier set because there's been weight gain there from years of bad habits. It's just a very simple example because it happens. And so does that mean that person turned into a Kapha person? No, they are the same. Once at the moment of conception, it's called your Prakruti. That's you, that stays. But the problem is when all these things happen in life, and let's say the Vata person now resembles a Kapha type person, lethargic and a little more heavier person with a Kapha imbalance, let's say, too much Kapha for that person.
Do we then suddenly waking up one day and go, I'm out of alignment, I need to do something, or is it a subconscious process to take you back to your type?
Yeah, it's going to be something like this. I don't quite feel like myself. I don't have the energy I used to. I have way too much spastic energy than I used to. I didn't used to be this like flighty and crazy. I didn't used to be like that. I used to be steady and focused. I'm too stressed out. I used to enjoy this. I don't anymore. And sometimes things can change in life like that, but it's going to be something like, I just don't feel like myself anymore. I don't feel good. I don't feel good. Something's off. And I mean, there could be a million reasons why, honestly. But it's one of the clues. And I'm trying to think, I think one of the examples was it was the example that I shared earlier. It was the story about me going to work and I didn't feel good. And that wasn't like me to be sad and being overly stressed out all the time. It wasn't myself. You got to do something about it. And then, and that's, I think, where the prevention comes into play, right? So we get warning signs, signals all the time that the body is happy or it's not. Ayurvedic to listen to that and take it seriously. You don't have to be freaked out about it, but take it seriously. Like, have a listen. Like, what's your body telling you? Have you not stretched at all? Have you not done any yoga? Have you not gone for your runs? Did you used to be super active and now you're not because you're putting yourself last because you're a parent and you work? It's something we have to be really mindful of because a lot of times, everything else will take priority except taking care of ourselves. And I don't mean taking care of ourselves like going to get our nails done and getting massages and all that. That's nice. But I mean really taking care of ourselves. Go for the 10-minute run in the morning. You might not like it. You'll feel better when it's done. Go do that.
Which brings us full circle of how this journey began for you. As ever, Monica, we've just rattled through the last 30 minutes or so, and we're still just scratching the surface. So maybe you come on again at some point in the future. As ever, I've learnt, I've been reminded of some things that we've spoken about in the past, and I've let drift. An amazing experience spending 30 minutes with you, Monica. Thank you so much. Last question. If you were a superhero, who would you be?
I would be one of the Wonder Twins because I have found that a lot of my belief that I have to do everything by myself and go it alone is totally not true. And so I think that I'm more powerful when I've got somebody that can be like Wonder Twin powers activate. And then that's when good stuff happens like we just did today.
I love that. And I'm happy to be your twin.
Yeah.
Awesome. Monica, thank you so much for joining me on Unstoppable Force TV. Speak again soon. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that, but more importantly, I hope you got something from it. As I say to clients at our workshops, if you take one phrase from one sentence that was uttered during that podcast, then this has been of value. If you're looking for more content, jump across to www.unstoppableforce.co.nz or find us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. If you enjoyed this and you want more, we are live across New Zealand at events and workshops and sometimes in the US. If this has been valuable to become an unstoppable force, come along and reach beyond your limits.